Let's get started here. I'd like to underline a few words. Probably the first one is delegates. Father of the Constitution, that's the next one. And government. But if we start up with the end, government is simply a written agreement. It is the institutions that make our laws. It's the institutions that regulate our lives. It's how we tax and spend money. Government is usually formed when people vote in elections. All right, the next word at the top, delegates. Delegates was the name given to the 55 men who went to the Constitutional Convention in 1787. That was held from May to September of that year. And then the last one we have is the father of the Constitution. James Madison is often called the father of the Constitution because he came up with many of the ideas that went into the Constitution. He didn't come up with all of them, but he did come up with a lot of the ideas. So on the left, just kind of zoom here a little bit. There's a good picture of James Madison on the left and then George Washington on the right. George Washington was the president of the Constitutional Convention. James Madison, as I said before, was a delegate who came very well prepared. He had researched a lot about the Roman republics and other republics in history, and so he came up with a lot of the ideas that went into the Constitution. Madison was also the note taker at the Constitution. So when the men debated the ideas, Madison was often the person that was writing down what the men were discussing. All right, so it's important to know that he is the father of the Constitution. The Constitution that was written in the summer of 1787 and finally approved in 1789 is the Constitution that we have to this day. It has been amended quite a few times. That means amendments means changes, but not all that often. 27 amendments in our long history. All right, let's go on to the next one. So when I said Madison came up with ideas, one of the most important ones is we have 3 branches of government. They are the executive, the legislative, and the final branch of government, which I will highlight right now, is the judicial branch. Now these branches are co-equal, so no one branch is supposed to be stronger than the other branches. No one branch is supposed to overpower the other branches. So they're co-equal, and in fact each branch of government can kind of slow down or check the power of the other branches. That's called a system of checks and balances. That's another one of the important ideas that went into the Constitution. Now before we move on, let's just say the legislative branch, their main job is to make the laws of the country, and they decide how money is going to be spent. The executive, the most important part of the executive branch of government, is the president. We elect the president every 4 years, and the president enforces the laws, and the president is also the commander-in-chief, and the president also represents the United States with other countries. The judicial branch is a very important branch of government. It settles disputes. So this is our court system that makes up the judicial branch. Before I move on then, I'm going to say we have 3 branches of government. They are the legislative, they are the executive, and they are the judicial. And you must remember that they are equal branches. Okay, so here we want to just touch on what the executive is for just a moment. The executive is the president. The executive has many powers, but some of the most important powers are to carry out and enforce the laws. They are also in charge of the military, so sometimes the president is called the commander-in-chief. And another important thing that the president does is to deal with foreign countries. Some of the limits on a president's power. One of them was established by George Washington. So a president serves a 4-year term of office, and they can be re-elected. And Washington set the pattern of a president serving just 2 terms and then stepping aside and retiring. There was one president that served more than 2 terms, but after Franklin Delano Roosevelt was through with his term of office, the Constitution was amended to limit the president to just 2 terms in office. Okay, so these are some of the important things that flowed out of the Constitutional Convention. You should remember that it was held in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787. The purpose behind the Constitutional Convention was to amend the Articles of Confederation, but the delegates decided to get rid of it. When they wrote their new Constitution, they formed 3 equal branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. The Constitution has been amended 27 times, but the basic document that they wrote in 1787, and it was approved in 1789, is still with us to this very day. So watch this video again as many times as it takes to understand what the Constitution is, and then we delve into the executive branch of office a little bit as well.